Ladies and gentlemen, we move straight into our next discussion. It's the Food CEO's Megapolis. What makes the food business the most exciting business to be in? And why do food leaders feel upbeat that the best is yet to come? Just a few facts. Food is the largest consumption category in India. It forms 57% of the total Indian retail value. We are expected to have a 3.5 times growth by the year 2025. And the food industry will be a 71,000 billion rupee market by 2025. And of course, demonetization will drive the shift to modern formats. Let's put our hands together and meet our panel. Please put your hands together and welcome our special invitee, Mr. Deepak Vora, IFS, Ambassador and Special Advisor to the Prime Minister Lesotho and Guinea-Bissau. Please welcome Mr. Deepak Vora. Ladies and gentlemen, can we have a little more energy and a warm round of applause as each of our panelists takes the stage. Please welcome the Chairman and Managing Director, Global Consumer Products, and formerly the Managing Director, Godrej Consumer Products, Mr. A. Mahindran. He is Managing Director, Capital Foods. A warm welcome to Ajay Gupta. He is the Chief Executive Officer, Grocery Retail, Reliance Retail. A warm welcome to Mr. Damodar Mal. He is co-founder of Grosomax. Please welcome on stage Mr. K. Radhakrishnan. Chairman and Managing Director, Rasna, and Chairman CIA National Committee on Food Processing and Ambassador Make in India Initiative, Piruz Khambata. He is Chief Executive Officer, Hypercity Retail. A warm welcome to Ramesh Menon. He is Senior Director, Philips Lighting. Please put your hands together for Sukanto Aich. He is Managing Director, Pizza Hut, India Subcontinent, Yum Restaurants. A warm welcome to Unnat Verma. He is the Managing Director, Vitz Hotels and Kamat's Restaurants. A warm welcome to Vikram Kamath. And ladies and gentlemen, with such a high-powered panel, we couldn't do it with just one moderator. We've got two. So please put your hands together and welcome Chief Executive Officer, Big Bazaar, Mr. Sadashiv Nayak, and Managing Director, Asbiverse Group London, Ankur Shiv Bhandari. It's over to Mr. Ankur Shiv Bhandari, who will be the opening batsman for this entire panel. And we've got an entire 11 waiting for you. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Thanks a lot for the kind introductions. Good afternoon, everyone. And I have the honor of starting this discussion with this distinguished panel, looking at the big future for the food business in India. So if I may start with a question to our panel, what in your view over the last 12 months are the key disruptions, if any, in the food scenario, in the Indian food scenario? So if I may start with Ambassador.
Very pleased to be here. I'll answer your question in a moment. But before that, my name is Deepak Vora. I'm the handsomest ambassador that India has ever had and the smartest foreign minister that India has never had. I consider myself 120% Draupadi. I have 3 husbands in Africa, Lesotho, Guinea-Bissau, South Sudan, 3 in India, Kargil, Leh, and Bodo land. Ladies and gentlemen, my dear colleagues on the panel, very quickly, in the next 2 minutes, may I tell you how food has transformed the history of our planet? Some of you will remember a terrible fellow called Christopher Columbus. 1492 came looking for us and the idiot found the United States. 1498, Vasco da Gama came to India looking for spices needed to preserve food in Europe. And battles were fought, empires were created. That lasted 400 years till the end of the 19th century, the beginning of the 20th. And the beginning of the 20th century, we see the Coca-Cola colonization of the world, followed by the McDonaldization of the world. और अब पिछले 50 साल से जो हम देख रहे हैं, focus on health foods, natural foods, and so on. Now this is the big disruption, not just in India, but a disruption that is occurring globally. Africa, black Africa, 1 billion people, 15% elite, 85% non-elite. All of them willing to spend money. जब भारत आज़ाद हुआ था, the first figures we have are 1950. Disposable income for non-food luxury foods was 10%. Today it is 50% across the board. So there is a demand for food. And the biggest disruption that we are seeing, number one, globalization of taste. आज मैं गिन रहा था कम से कम 500 महिलाएं इस का फुटफॉल हुआ था हमारे स्टॉल पर मैं बैठा हुआ था उनमें से 2 ने साड़ी पहनी हुई थी बाकी सब in trousers and skirts and blouses. Like the globalization of fashion, we have the globalization of taste, thanks to Mr. McDonald and Mr. Coca-Cola. The second food mega trend that we are seeing is the youthification of taste. Younger people wanting the same kind of food. Third, the willingness to spend money. Everybody is willing to spend extra money. That's another disruptive thing that we are seeing. And fourth, focus on healthy foods. I also chair the World Forum of Food and Wine. We are an industry lobby body. We lobby for you to give up whiskey and take wine. We are a business portal. We also are a platform for technology exchange. Gourmet foods in India, there's a company called Luxury Gourmet. Go see them, they are right here. They are trying to bring luxury and gourmet foods to the developing world. The most important disruption, now we just don't want dal roti, we want luxury foods, everybody does. How you deal with it, ladies and gentlemen, is for you to decide. I've said what I have to say. Please clap very loudly so that I feel encouraged. By the way, half of India grew up watching me on television, all these senior citizens sitting here. But the younger people like you and me don't know who I am. But if you go back and ask your parents, they'll tell you Doordarshan and Deepak Vora were synonymous. 40 years with Doordarshan. I still continue. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ambassador Vora, for those kind thoughts. So continuing the discussion, thoughts on key disruptions, or if any, over the past 12 months. Damodar, if we can please have your thoughts.
For me, the supermarket wala, the biggest news and the biggest change that I see is a fortress in our homes that existed around ghar ka khana or homemade food. That fortress is brick by brick opening for business. That really multiplies the business opportunity all of us have as branded product and service providers. Food made at home, batters and idlis, chutneys, chapati and paratha, even dahi, even soaked Kabuli chana, soaked chole, are open for imaginative service providers like many of us here. And that to me is a huge multiplier, and I think it's going to take us between 5 to 10 years to really address this in a manner that the customer embraces. But in the last 1 year for me, clearly she has said, we are open for business. We can discuss this.
Thank you, Damodar. So if we continue that thought with Ajay, who is, having all of us eat Desi Chinese. So your thoughts, please, Ajay.
Taking from what Damodarji said was, I believe there is a revolution brewing in our kitchens. Over the last few years, we have grown up on a lot of exposure on media, and then came the malls with their food courts. Huge amount of experiment has happened. Today, a housewife has to answer one question 5 times a day, 7 days a week for 365 days. Khane mein kya hai? And that is changing dramatically the way all food companies need to look at how they do their business. Old categories are dying. I grew up, again, with all due respect to kids, so I grew up on instant mixes, but today there is ID that gives instant, fresh batter. So there's a huge amount of shift that is beginning to happen. Old categories will move. Innovation is going to be the name of the game. The housewife and her family is hungry. If we don't innovate, if we don't bring newer products to the table, it's not going to work. She's not going to keep lapping up the old stuff repackaged. So that really, I believe we are ready to see a huge change that happens in processed foods.
Thank you so much, Ajay. Radha, to get your thoughts.
I have a pretty different view on this. I've been in retail for a while. I have not seen anything change.
Okay.
If things were to change, in the late 90s when I was involved with the opening of a locality supermarket, the staples used to be 25% of the total sale. Today it is 25% of the total sale. There is absolutely nothing that has disrupted in food. For me, disruption in food is when fresh food disrupts. There are 5 categories, what Western supermarkets call food, which does not exist in Indian retail. So what are those? Meat, delicatessen, dairy, fruit and vegetable, and bakery. These 5 things do not exist in a large form in any of the Indian supermarkets. What you have is branded food. Noodles was launched in 1982. There are various forms of it. Thanks, Ajay. You made some kind of change. But I am not seeing anything different. Okay. There used to be a guy called Nigam who launched Tasty Bite. It is a retort pack launched in India in the early 2000s. It was a retort pack where dal makhani and all meat and everything you could just dip in boiling water and eat. He flopped for 3 years. Now he's flourishing in the US. So I'm sorry, I am not seeing any disruption. And why is this? I think the problem is that the center of the plate of the consumer's home, which is dal, which is rice, which is roti, there is no major player in value added. Everybody is on the periphery of the plate. There is pickle, there is jam, there is sauces, there is soup, but that's not center of plate. And center of plate is 70% of the value of the food that we eat. So I'm not sure the habit of the Indian consumer is changing that fast. I'm very happy it is not changing because we cook food 3 times a day and good, fresh, tasty food.
Appreciate your thoughts, Radha. Thank you so much. Big round of applause for Radha. Now, for someone who is managing a big retail chain, Ramesh, your thoughts on the same, building on maybe what Radha said?
I almost agree with Radha because I think in this category, multinationals have done a great disservice to the industry by not innovating enough over the last 15, 20, 30 years. And the change that I see in the last few years is the arrival of the Indian startup food entrepreneur. I think all the change that's happened in the Indian palate or in the dining table at home has really been made to happen by these new Indian startup entrepreneurs, whether it's ID or Finger Licks or Chef's Basket or Capital Foods or any of these guys. All of the change is being driven by these startups, and that's the big change. And if that revolution starts to build, I think there can be huge change in this market. And supply creates its own demand. Retailers will grow only when food entrepreneurs start growing, and food retailing is waiting to happen if supply is created by the food entrepreneurs, and I hope that happens.
Thank you, Ramesh. Thank you so much. So maybe building on that, this is what we have heard so far is largely at-home consumption. So away from home consumption as managing the Pizza Hut business. Your thoughts?
Yeah, so I think over the last 12 months, there have been 2 specific kind of disruptions that have happened. And both these, reflect towards more the service part of the food, the food service part of the business. So in the last 12 months, one has seen the emergence of, food delivery aggregators, food delivery specialists who have democratized, the home delivery business. So home delivery till some time back used to be the play of people who could invest in the infrastructure, who could have the bikes, employ the people, etc. But a large part of Indian restaurant business could not deliver because they could not afford this infrastructure. Over the last 12 months, with the coming in of a lot of these, specialist delivery players, this particular segment has dramatically opened up. And this to me is one big disruption that has happened more in the service element of food service. This is one. The other one, I think someone spoke about this, was in the last 12 months, one has seen, especially in the large towns, emergence of the casual diner. So casual diners were absolutely, static in numbers, not growing, in fact, gradually declining till some time back. But over the last 12 months, one has seen emergence of a lot of local players offering world-class experiences world flavors and world cuisines at affordable Indian prices. So these two to me seem to be disruptions that have happened in the last 12 to 18 months in the food service space.
Thank you so much, Unnat. So Mahendran, if we can build on this with your thoughts, from your perspective, maybe building on your past experience as the MD Godrej as well.
I think I would agree with I heard about Radha's statement of nothing has happened in the last 10 years as well as the last 1 year. There is no major disruption from my point of view is, as we are saying about 71,000 crores of billions of in 2025. But nothing has happened in India, I think, from a capitalization point of view. When you look at food and beverage as 60% of the FMCG, but if I look at the last 10 years, the investment or capitalization behind that food and beverage is very, very poor, very low in India. And even today, we are looking at international players like Walmart, etc., to come into India, particularly on retail. Indian retailers like you have Big Bazaar and Reliance. And so overall, I feel that investment behind F&B is very poor, and nothing has happened so far. And luckily, I managed to bring Goldman Sachs and Mitsui Japan to invest in F&B in my company. But that is again, it's $100 million, which is nothing. But when you talk about 71,000 billion rupees, we can say that in 2025. But where is the investment coming from? Coupled with the government block of FDI approvals, etc., not allowing the international players, etc. So I think something drastically, if you don't do this 2025 number of 75,000 billion, is not possible. But I would agree that the consumption is raging. The consumption demand, the fire is on, but there is no backup supply chain as well as innovation. And innovation, we are talking about where is the funds behind promoting innovation? There is no funds here. Even in a cold storage, if you took a look at today, the transporting goods which are needed, the cold storage, we are completely undercapitalized in India. So that's one of my...
Thank you, Mahendran. Thank you so much. Can I request Vikram to share your thoughts? This?
I think taking it a little more ahead rather than just in last 12 months, but in the first phase, perhaps after 2000, we had people going more towards quality. And now in this second phase for the last 5-6 years, there's definitely, and I'm going to differ here with him, there's a lot of change in terms of people's mindset, and maybe may not be much change in retail stores, but when it comes to restaurants and casual dine and eating out, people want to just experiment. And if you see a lot of, like Domino's had launched, 4 different types of cheeses, which was an innovation in pizza. People are trying different types of dosa. People are trying different types of dal, makhani. People want to innovate, perhaps not at home, but when they're going out, they definitely want to try something very different because that's the opportunity to experiment. And the biggest change, I think, is of people wanting to do something exotic, try something different. And that mindset of being willing to experiment, I think that itself is a very big change. And hopefully that'll continue, and it'll allow more categories to open up eventually. I mean, many years ago, I remember as part of the hotel business, if you wanted mozzarella cheese like 18 years ago, it was impossible basically. Then you had one supplier who started, and then he tried and failed, and had cases fought on him that you can't use the word mozzarella, and so a lot of people had to suffer in the cause of innovation, which we've come through that cycle. So now things will hopefully get easier from here.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Vikram. So Sukanto. So Sukanto comes at this from a slightly different perspective as the director of Philips Lighting. I think he has some interesting perspectives to add.
Yeah, thanks, Ankur. As Ankur said, among these panelists, I'm one who's not part of the retail industry, but we work very closely with retail players, and what we have been trying to do is to understand how these, especially the large retail formats, are addressing the changes that we are going through. So I don't know whether food is disrupting, but what we are seeing, definitely food being used as a differentiator, especially in the face of the online stores that are coming up, right? So one of the main differentiators between online and offline thing is the fresh food section. That's one thing people are still not comfortable buying online and would like to come and touch and feel the products out there. So, you can use food, and we are seeing some of our retail partners use food as a differentiator to attract that crowd into their stores, which otherwise would be preferring the convenience of their home to order. So, and once they walk in, there are a lot of solutions that we are working with these customers to create an experience for that customers, and maybe we'll talk about that a little later, Ankur.
Thank you so much, Sukanto. So, can I please conclude this question with Piruz's thoughts? Because I think, Piruz, you bring both the perspectives as the CMD of Rasna plus also the ambassador for Make in India. What is it that you have seen, in terms of disruption?
First, I would like to compliment the organizers for having such a big dais here. I have never seen so many speakers on this topic. Coming to talk of disruption, I honestly believe that in our company, at least our philosophy is we don't wait for disruption to happen, we make disruption happen. And I think the best thing to do is that you have an insight of consumer, and at the right time, you make the right products. And I can give some examples. Like, we were the first people to make an Alfonso mango when there was nobody talking Alfonso mango. We were the first people to talk of a Nimbu Pani, Ghar ka Nimbu Pani, because we wanted people to find out that there is something Ghar ka which you can get when nobody was talking. We were the first one to get a Chopati Kala Katta and say, here in the house you take it. Masses in India, the real market is the rural market. The masses live there. And for the masses, after water, if in the heat, they want a drink, it is only Rasna today, honestly. Because it is the only drink available at 2 rupees with 21 vitamins, minerals. And the good thing is, and there is disruption, the price disruptions, from inception of the product at 2 rupees, it is still 2 rupees. While the 2 rupee has lost value, Rasna is still 2 rupees. What more disruption can I make? Now this is the disruption in these areas, but we don't stop there. I believe Indian companies, there's a huge amount of things we can do abroad. And I believe the real story of Indian food processing industry doesn't lie in this country. It lies abroad. So when I went to the Middle East, which are obviously the most easy markets to be, and I'm here for the Dubai export show in the morning, so I came here, and Dubai, we have a big export. I learned very quickly that if we have to really learn the tricks of the trade, you should fight in their battleground. So if you ask me today if I have 90% market share over multinationals, and the reason why I have done it is that because I was able to learn their tricks in their turf. Now, one of the tricks we learned in that turf is that, for example, we are talking of fruit and natural. We were the first people in Dubai, forget India, to launch a fruit-based powder, first time in Dubai in '92. And which was at that time called Rasna International, which is now called Rasna Fruit Plus. But the point is, that created a whole new niche of powders. Because what happened is, earlier powder was supposed to be synthetic, it was supposed to be not for me, it had no vitamins, and we were able to create a whole new concept of a fruit drink in a powder form, which was then followed by many, many other companies. And because of the learning we had in Dubai, in India also we introduced it much before others, and that's why we are ruling the roost today in India also. This is as regards as Rasna and the disruption is concerned. But I honestly believe that the biggest disruption in this country is going to soon happen, and that is going to happen in the potential of this e-com. My reading is that as we go further, more and more people are going to look at the virtues of buying on the net, and that is something which we all companies, be in retail or FMCG, should be mentally prepared of. And I think how we can work together, use these forums to really make this happen, because that's where consumer is here. With this, I would like to sort of end.
So I think Piruz did mention such a large podium, and I think it's a delight to have two opposing points of view, which we got here. So I'm going to possibly pick up on two, and rather you started the fight. So I'm going to pick up on Damodar and Ramesh, because they said different things. And if we believe that what Radha and some of them said is true, then my two questions to you is that are we really putting an urban lens when we're commenting that there's a large change or there's no change? I think the way Piruz explained just now, maybe there's something happening very differently in the tier 2 towns, which we are possibly not capturing as a group. So one, are we seeing it with the limited lens of the urban market? And second, if we assume what Radha said is true, saying that there's not been enough disruption, and what Ramesh said is true, then have we done enough as retailers to really encourage brands to really go out and experiment and bring about innovation? So I think I just want to build on that question, Ankur.
Thank you, Siya.
And even Radha wants to add to the fight.
I just want to share an incident. In fact, I put it on my blog on LinkedIn as well. The boy who works with me at home, he's from Bihar, Darbhanga. So during Diwali, he wanted to go home. So I said, I'll take you shopping. You want to take something home? And guess what he bought? Oreo biscuits, right? He bought cheese. I said, by the time you reach Darbhanga, this will be flowing. So don't take cheese. But he took all processed food. I can bet you, Oreo's trying to get a 2% sales growth out of the city. There is 99% of India which is not touched by Oreo. I'm just talking one example. Tropicana launched in the early 2000s in Food World when I was in Chennai. It took them 4 years to go to Coimbatore. All these FMCG companies are not reaching out, and this is exactly to your point, Sada, that I believe that 90% of everything sold in the cities is not available in the villages. Still the villages are consuming unpackaged biscuits, which will be 90% of the market, not very far. You just drive from Chandigarh to a village. I remember going there just when I was in Reliance, trying to see whether it's a good chance to put up a store there, and I found that 90% of the biscuits were unbranded. So what are you going to sell there? I think this, to your point, the disruption can also come in just introducing new products. It doesn't necessarily have to be a paradigm shift. Just introducing a new habit can be extremely disruptive.
Radha, you spoke about Darbhanga. Incidentally, I was there 2 weeks back. Very surprising to me. You go to, typically in Bombay, you go to a restaurant if you're not too hungry and the basic you want to order is tadka dal and 2 rotis. Guess what do they order in Darbhanga when they go to these places? No. Paneer chili and roti. So that's, you know, while we may say it's not urbanization that's happening, I'm amazed with what's happening in India in terms of food. Month back, I was in a place called Jharia, which is like 100 kilometers off Dhanbad. And I was so shocked. We were selling some 300 cases of pasta masala. It's a 5 rupee product. Guess, 300 cases, 700 units per case in a place called Jharia. I myself was shocked. How the hell does this happen? The Italians would be turning in their grave. Jharia and pasta. It's macaroni. It's the way they eat it. But that's a huge shift. That's not only urban, but also happening in smaller towns of the country.
One of my early gurus in retail and a strong entrepreneur said, if for a change or a disruption, if everybody agrees and everybody sees the proof in the mainstream, it is already useless. Yeah, so a disruption inside what you can bet on is of value only when it provokes you to bet on it. And I think it is nice, therefore, that some of us like Ajay get excited and surprised by how the customer, even in deep India, is ready for a change in food. Some supermarket wallas like me get excited that probably, as it was mentioned, the large global food companies don't seem to get it, but it's probably an organization that is tuned to kissing all frogs in every region of the country who are food entrepreneurs. It is from there that tomorrow's kings and princes are going to come up. Half of the frogs are going to fail and die. That doesn't worry me. When I kissed, as a retailer, when I kissed a frog called ID Batter 2 years back, its future was unknown. But today in our stores in Bangalore, it is the #2 food brand, and at the rate at which it is growing in 18 months, it will be the #1 food brand, beating even Amul in our stores. So I stay excited. I think we should all stay excited because, believe it or not, the customer is waiting for people like us to be imaginative and take a bet on what she is ready for. So I maintain my viewpoint that there aren't large corporations, there isn't valid enough data, but there is an exciting game opening for all of us to play.
So let's hear Ramesh. I think the excitement is kissing frogs and Italian in Jharia. So the allegation to you is that have you done enough for the FMCG brands to really cause disruption?
I think, is it working?
Is it working?
I think is it working? Yeah. I think the main culprit in this entire thing is the FMCG brands. I think they have not done enough. As much as they would have done in, say, Mexico or or Southeast Asia, none of them have actually gone beyond the traditional, whatever they had in the US kind of a philosophy here. And only then, when the funds start coming and the money starts coming in behind innovation, will actual change start happening in the business. And what do? Like you said, encouraging people like ID. I think we are offering a platform for every startup entrepreneur in India, food entrepreneur in India. You come and use our store as a platform for whatever innovation you want in the store, in your category. And if it is, if you've done it, we'll keep it. If it fails, it fails. If it succeeds, it succeeds. And that's the only way I think we can make this innovation make this change happen. And I tell all the brands that come to me saying that, don't worry about experimentation. You come and experiment in the store. You put your person there. You put your promoter there. Make it work. It's all yours. So I think more and more companies need to do it. More and more retailers need to do that. And if we do that, I think we'll have a larger industry than we are. I think. At the end of the day, food retailing by itself needs to be profitable, and that's really the concern that we have.
So I think we'll, Ankur, if you permit, we'll move to the next subject. I think we're broadly in a consensus that there's disruption, but at different levels.
Yeah, no, I think absolutely, Sada.
So my question really, and I'll begin with Vikram and Unnat maybe, I think, and then we'll go on to the other panelists. I think if you look at a adult who's just 20, 21 years today, and down 4 years is going to come into the mainstream of consumption, what have you got to get him excited and come? So we spoke of disruption of a year. Different points of view, and I think we respect those differences. But what would you do for a person who's 20, about to earn, and in 4 years having good enough money to come and consume? What have you got? Maybe we start with both of you and then go on to the other retailers.
Today's 21-year-olds are already consuming either through their own income or through their parents' income. So they are a very important target market, no doubt. And in fact, they are already spending. If you see actually today, most 15, 16-year-olds from school itself, their birthdays are planned in a way where it will be at some restaurant, maybe a casual dine, but it will still be planned somewhere. So they're already actually entering the decision-making level on where they're going to spend. As I said, the main thing is to keep things exotic at this age or at the age you're mentioning, when they're entering the field. It's all about trying new things. It's all about what kind of global feel can they get. I mentioned about the different types of cheeses, even in pizza, even in Indian food. If you see in Delhi or in Mumbai or in most of the cities, it's the innovative Indian restaurants like Farzi Cafe and all, who people are at least giving a try. So people are looking at not just going off run-of-the-mill, but when it comes to restaurants, when it comes to F&B, when it comes to, even if you see the kind of beverages, whether in juice, alcoholic, non-alcoholic segment, whatever is also new and exotic has also done very well. In alcoholic also, you've seen so many desi beers and all also launch in a very big way. Non-alcoholic segment also, so many new drinks have come out. So I think that's going to be the driver. But I think a very good point that came up is there are two Indias. There is the one India which is in the rural, where even if they get something of good quality, they are happy. Their innovation in just quality itself is going to be very big, because they are playing catch up, not because they don't want to consume, but because the brands have not even reached over there. And then of course you have the tier 2 or tier 1 cities where a lot of innovation is there, and a lot of these tier 3 or tier 2 people who are working in tier 1 going back are taking a lot of this innovation back with them, ki this is what one should experience. So I think if those brands go in tier 2, and that's where we've seen even with Kamats and all, people have already experienced it when they're working in tier 1. So these brands are wholeheartedly accepted in tier 2, tier 3.
Okay. Unnat, how about you?
Great points, Vikram. Can we have them?
Yeah.
Great points, Vikram. Thanks for that. In addition to what Vikram just mentioned, I think around 2 or 3 areas where I feel disruption will need to happen. to basically catch the 20, 21-year-old. And all this comes from observations and insights. So the first area really is that over time, food has moved, the role of food has moved as food as fuel to food as an experience. Today, when we look at the youngsters engaging with food, the first thing when food is presented on the table is what they do is they pull up their camera phones, they click a photograph, and it has to be on Instagram or it has to be on their social pages. Their experiences talk about, you know, whatever experiences they go through, it really enhances their social standings through the social platforms. So brands that are able to take food as experience to the next level, it could be through the way food is presented, through the way the packaging is done, through the way interactions in the store happens, through the way the entire store look and feel happens. As differentiated as that can be, it will be beneficial for basically connecting with the 21, 22, 23-year-olds. That's the first space. The second I feel is that, again, it's coming in from observation. Today, when you look at two youngsters sitting with each other, they could be communicating with each other, but not physically, not through words. It could be through their cell phones. It could be through their messaging apps. Now, if that is the real world, that people are more engaged in their instruments and gadgets, and that's the way they look at communicating, interacting with each other, food brands need to acknowledge this, and they have to then start engaging with consumers in the way they prefer to. So, for example, in today's scenario, when a group of friends go to a restaurant, they order food, they're ordering through a physical menu card. When the bill comes, the bill is physically being split, and people are taking out cash or the respective credit cards. It's just a very simple example. If all of this can happen through a very simple app on the phone, that particular brand, the first one to do it, will have the preference of these youngsters. So there are brands actually in the Western world where you basically, on the restaurant app, you pick up individually what you need to order collectively as a group, and the bill gets split equally amongst the people, right? So, I mean, these are just early indications of what could be happening in the future, but clearly interacting with youth through platforms that have become their mainstay and their habits is extremely important. The third thing, which is very, very critical, is that, whatever the youngsters are earning today, there is a lot of different categories fighting for the same share of wallet. So when I was growing up, I would spend money on perhaps eating out and some clothes and shoes. Today, the youngsters have to have, split the same money for internet packs, car EMIs, this, that, and the other. So basically, value is key. And youngsters are looking at the best of world experiences at prices they can afford, at the frequency at which they want to go and use the stores, use the outlets. So it's extremely important for whatever service offerings that we have and food offerings that we have, it has to come at prices that are acceptable to youth. So largely food as experience, digital interface with youth, as well as value that can drive massive consumption.
Thank you, Unnat. Thank you so much. So Sada, just as we are hearing a distinguished panel, I think there is a thought that is coming to my mind. I think there are two strains emerging here. One is at-home consumption and one is out-of-home consumption. I think and would be good to get your thoughts. What I'm hearing is at-home consumption, disruption is not enough. There is a lot of scope. Out-of-home consumption, there is some disruption. There is still a lot of opportunity. So can we build on that?
Yes, yeah. So Mr. Mahendran, I think if you to really take on the 2 points, would you say that 4 years down, the customers will still say, I love it to your chocolates? Or would they be pushing you much, much more?
Sada, I think when I look at 4 years down the line, as a brand, love it as a brand, we feel that our focus should be on the millennials. We call that 20 years as the millennials. And millennials, if they are the target audience, and in the 4 years down the line, our studies say that if I look at the degree of flirtatiousness, of what we call brand flirting, the highest is in the millennial mindset.
Sir, can I request you to keep the mic near? The voice is going.
The highest is the flirtatiousness is in the 20-year-old, particularly next 4 years. They do flirt among brands, and so if you want to capitalize that, we have to look at each and every aspect of our brand. Let's say love it as a brand. We are looking at the edginess from the design part of it, particularly the packaging design, the brand aesthetics and the brand architecture. And then we went deeper into that 20-year-old, the psychographic of them. And we are of the conclusion that we came out with a nice tagline, one life, love it. So this particular age group believes in one life, believes in flirting, believes in that kind of edginess in each and every aspect of a brand. So if everybody is careful about it, certainly we can target that particular age group. Of course, the consumption will be high. Their purchasing power is also growing. The disposable income in the 20 to 24 is growing. In every aspect, as a company, we are focusing across categories. I'm saying it's not only chocolates. We are looking at beverages. We're looking at household insecticide. In everything, that is a target audience for our company.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Piruz, you mentioned the 2 rupees pack and how it still remains relevant. So 4 years down, again, the same question, the 21-year-old boy, will the 2 rupee pack mean something to him or will it change?
More so. It will mean more. Because don't forget, we are a country with so many people. And as today also when we are speaking here, 50% of the people don't have money for 1 square meal. So obviously they are going to come in the line. And second, today everybody realizes that you want to conserve your money. So it is not true that the 2 rupee pack is only for the rural or only the masses. It is also true for even A-class people go and want to save a 2 rupee, buy a 2 rupee pack because they know that the 2 rupee pack will give enough product as good as the 5 rupee or 10 rupee pack. So in my mind, if you ask me, the value for money and the need for value for money products is going to live for eternity. So if anybody thinks it is not going to happen, it is false because everybody wants to save money, even at whatever level. But having said that, I think one thing you have to understand is that we are seeing a world of complete change. You are seeing America, which was the epicenter of what you call liberalized free trade, free economy, saying we want to close ourselves. They were a country form of immigrants, they are saying no more immigrants. Same is going to happen in food. I am seeing very clearly that the old people are eating what the young people were supposed to eat. So we marketers were making products thinking that this is for the children and youth, actually the old people are having. And products which we have made for the old people, thinking old people will have it, young people will be having. Similarly, sometimes you make products thinking this is value for money, 2 rupees, only rural will have. No, on the contrary, people in Bandra are having. And reverse is true. Premium products, there are enough people in rural who want premiumization products. So they are also having. So today, I think a good marketer is somebody who will be prepared, future ready. And the best way to do it is something like what we do, and which I always say is to be a research-based, marketing-driven company. Like we every year spend a lot of money on doing consumer research to the extent that I myself and the senior directors and senior presidents sit in the focus groups, go through the questionnaires, see what the consumers are wanting, and not consumers sitting in Bombay and Delhi, but consumers across the length and breadth of India. We do research in some obnoxious centers also, and try and figure out products which I am going to call it future ready, because don't you expect disruption. People are not going to buy exactly as you want. There's going to be a lot of changes happening. That's what I personally feel.
Fantastic. I think, Ankur, I think there's a lot of optimism building in for the millennial. Ajay, so 4 years down, do you think in Jharia they'll still say, my name is Ranveer Ching? Or things will change?
So, food is culture. And so we started with Desi Chinese, who says, we just beginning now Desi Italian. हम Indian ऐसे ही हैं. हम सबका खाना लेके देसी बनाने वाले हैं. So the next is Desi Italian, then Desi Thai, Desi Russian. But Desi तो सब होगा.
Desi Indian भी होगा?
Desi Indian वो मैं नहीं करूँगा. So sorry to come back. So there is going to be constant change that is going to happen. And you know what Radha said about the center of the plate. Yes, there isn't too much change happening in the center of the plate, but there is a shift beginning to happen. I keep saying food is culture, so we're not going to give up our dal roti chawal. But in the dal, can I do Shezwani tadka? Sorry, pitching my brand. But there is also a Shezwan dosa happening now. So there is a shift beginning to happen there. And to me, these are revolutions, though they're happening in steps. They're not going to, yes, you're right, Radha, they're not going to be a large shift, but very interesting shift have begun to happen. Idli is becoming Shezwan. So there is a movement.
You didn't see Radha about to beat you up because so I'll move on to Ramesh and Damodar. Damodar, you mentioned the fortress breaking brick by brick. 4 years down, the lady who's now possibly cooking, not cooking, I don't know. I think, how have you imagined her life 4 years down when she gets her first income? What's going to happen to her and what are you going to do as a retailer?
Sadashiv, this young Samir or Sonal, whatever we call them, 4 years from now when they get their first salary, by the time that happens, twice the number of people will be shopping at modern trade. So on the whole, the quantum of business will be double the interest for us, whatever they shop. I think when Samir gets his first salary, he would want to celebrate with a cook-in party on the weekend. Cook-in party on the weekend. He will look up 3 or 4 recipes, and from the recipes he will press the smart.in app to order the ingredients to be delivered on Saturday afternoon there. It's his first salary day. So he's missing his mother. He's missing ghar ka khana as well. So beyond ordering the weekend party recipe ingredients from smart.in, he would also order kadhi chawal for the evening, freshly made that evening, but delivered at home by the same store that his mother and he growing up trusted.
Fantastic. So you're painting a scenario where I think the concept of retail itself is going to be dramatically different, morphing into food services. Vikram has a role, the retailer has a role, and the delivery person also has a role. Emotional bonding is what Ajay is mentioning.
I heard this 2 years back. Cooking on weekends is about emotional bonding. It's about family therapy. So that's what Damodar is referring to.
Yeah, and I think as was mentioned, food is a new fashion. Okay. You show it off, you share, you do it together, you try and make it different from others. And before you eat, you post.
Right.
I think that will happen on the weekend. But in the evening, he will still want maa ke haath ka khana. And the substitute is some of us here will learn to do near maa ke haath ka khana, but definitely fresh delivered to the person.
Ramesh, maa ke haath ka khana, 4 years down.
Just the pessimistic side, I left retail in 2008. I came back to retail in 2016. Nothing had changed. It was almost a sense of deja vu when I came back. I said, what? Nothing has changed. But I'm seeing the change happening a little bit now in terms of the food habits. The dining table has become like a food court. And I think if you look at our upper middle class household, it's really the way we eat has changed. The kids are eating probably Italian. The parents are eating traditional Indian. The housewife is eating healthy. The husband is eating bread and egg. So the food habits are changing. And I think if we as entrepreneurs or we as vendors or we as retailers look at this changing food habit and see how we can make value addition to it and we can add value to that, the entire packaging part of it, I think that will change retailing or food retailing. I think what has not happened enough of is really packaging and value addition to food. But food habits certainly are changing, and a lot of it is driven by what people are eating outside the home and people wanting to have the same thing inside the house. How did my child suddenly become a pasta addict? I have no idea, but it's happened. Right? And how did my wife suddenly become a health addict? It's happened. So
Radha, Sonal is now cooking kadhi chawal as painted by Damodar. But you said fresh mein zyada innovation nahi hua. So what are you going to talk about it?
So here is an anecdote. My niece got married 6 months ago. So in about 2-3 months we said, chalo dekhte hain. How are they living, right? So we went to their home and they're in Bombay and this guy is working in Bain Capital. She's working in Vogue. So they enough money to buy a house. So they bought a new house. So they're walking me through the house. This is our master bedroom. This is our to-be kids' bedroom. This is our TV room. And the kitchen is 4 kilometers away. All right? Now, here is what I think is going to happen. I think the word like the dining table becoming the food court, Vikram And Unat, your time is yet to come, right? I think there's going to be so much of out of home which will become in home. But the occasion when you cook, it won't be subsistence cooking, it'll be celebrated cooking, right? Like the habit of the emotional connect you want to do. Chalo, next Saturday, we're going to have Italian food. Men in India don't cook for nuts, right? My another brother-in-law is an Italian. That guy cooks, poor chap. I mean, he cooks 3 meals a day, but he's a fabulous cook, right? He's almost like a professional cook. Italians cook brilliantly. I think that's what's going to happen. Here is the opportunity which has not happened so far. When they want to eat home-cooked-like meal, these people who have enough money are going to go to a supermarket and pick up. Where Nigam failed in the retort, I think the time is yet to come. I believe cooking is going to become celebrated. It won't be subsistence anymore, but it'll be less occasional, more call-in, and it's going to be a mix. And I think this is the lifestyle change that we're going to see.
Vikram wanted to elbow you, but I said, why don't you oppose him instead?
No, I have a completely different view. I feel that people only cook because they have to. And I'm sure there's not one housewife who would like to chill and have somebody else cook for her. And whatever anybody might say, cook for, celebration and coming together and all. People come together when they're eating, not when they're cooking. Whoever's cooking is normally alone in the kitchen and everybody else is out enjoying or watching TV or doing whatever else they are. So I think people are going to eat out much, much more often. People who are eating out once in a month, twice a month, now at least once a week. In many of our cases, it could be 2-3 times a week. So I think people are going to eat out much more often. Their wallet may not permit them to eat out more often, which is why they want maybe a convenience of having the pre-prep done. Because I can tell you as a hotel management student and somebody who has cooked at home, you don't want to cook at home because if you start cooking at home, it becomes homework. And nobody likes to do homework. So cooking at home is only a compulsion, and I'm sure that given an option, it will become much, much less. And the whole idea of having the cutting, chopping done for you is because that's the most painful job in the whole world. Everybody wants to be like on Khazana, where somebody else has chopped everything and you have to just come do the glamorous part of stir frying the wok and then khana tayar hai. So if people didn't have a choice, they would not cook.
No, I have a question for you. Wouldn't your restaurant be the kitchen for the colony? That people actually call in food. So I'm not saying they won't eat out, but your restaurant becomes a kitchen.
I think Damodar painted that scenario where possibly, as I said, figuratively, I said Vikram will be inside retail and all of it will be coming together. So maybe as we conclude this question, I'll ask Mr. Deepak and Sukanto. You heard both the parties talking about what the future holds. What is your view as an observer?
So I think most of us agreed that whatever it be, these millennials 4 years down the line are definitely going to be on the smartphone, right? Whether they're clicking photographs or putting it on Instagram or sending it across, downloading a recipe, etc. The question is, as a retailer, how do you connect with them? And I talked earlier about this whole experience as the guy walks into a store. So a lot of us said that the cooking might be only, as a celebration, not a regular thing. So here's that Saturday meal that, I want to do as a millennial. I have downloaded the recipe, I've got the ingredients out there. I walk into a supermarket, but since I don't shop every day, now I don't know where the pasta part of the store is, right? So what do? Do I spend a lot of time? I don't want to waste time. So what we have done as a solution is, inside these stores, we could put up lighting. Since they're all light points, the light points can guide you. As you walk in with your list, there's a store apps. The store apps comes on your smartphone. It sees that it has pasta on your list, and it guides you to this part of the store where the pasta is. So you're spending less time, you're picking up all the things that are on your list. And as you are walking towards the pasta store, the apps figures out that you are going there to buy pasta. It will recommend there's a promo going on the pasta sauce. Do you want to pick up the pasta sauce? So you are able to give him dedicated, targeted promotions which are relevant for him, which he is likely to pick up, which is likely to complement his list. So the reality is he is going to be on that smartphone, he is going to use it. Is there a way that you can connect? Today with our LED lighting solutions, we can sense We can pick up the data, we can transmit the data, we can put analytics behind it, and throw it back to him in a manner which makes a lot of difference to him.
Deepak, Ambassador Vora, your final.
Thank you.
Thoughts.
I've been listening to the discussions. All I'd like to say is, for those who are interested in the African market, I've spent half my career there, now spend half my life in Africa. Follow the AAA formula. Let the food that you export be affordable, let it be adaptable, and let it be appropriate. Very high risk, huge rewards. And if you follow that, come out with smart foods, which the Africans like, you can't go wrong.
And
you have smartphones, I use a dumb phone, but smart foods are soon round the corner. Incidentally, we're very privileged to have Sri Sri and Baba Ramdev, because now it's the reverse colonization. I was in New York to meet with Trump's advisors recently, and I find a number of stores called Ayur Foods from Ayurveda. We've helped by making yoga an international event. There's an International Day of Yoga. Next 2 years, probably an International Day of Ayurveda. Great deal of interest in the West. Take advantage of that.
Thank you, Deepak. Thank you, Mr. Vora. So great points of view. You know, as Sada said, two opposing thoughts to start with. Yes, there is disruption, not enough. Talking about the future, you know, there is still a lot that can be achieved. Talking about our 20-year-old in 4 years' time. Innovation from lighting point of view, smartphone point of view, in food, celebratory cooking versus substantial cooking. Really like that term, by the way. And obviously, Vikram has a slightly different point of view. But very interesting discussion. Sada, would you like to conclude, please? Okay. So I guess they've enjoyed a lot of our discussion anyway. So Sada, would be good to get just concluding remarks on the discussion.
So I think frankly, we saw a lot of points which come out, and I'm just picking up the key points. One, he said there are two Indias which existing, and maybe it's India and Bharat which exist together. There is a kind of a feeling that there's not enough disruption and fresh happening. I think the fact that the price point and affordability is going to be important. I think Piruz made that point very, very well, and I think it's to be appreciated. Both Mr. Mahindran and Unnat spoke about the millennial customer and how food goes beyond just being food and it really becomes something worth sharing. I think it's good to have Ramesh's point of view, and I see his point of view as saying not enough has happened and we need to make more things happen. So to my mind, I think as the country becomes richer, we are going to buy clothes more often. We are going to change our cookers and our television, mobiles more often. But what will happen in food? I don't think we'll eat more food. Something else will happen. We'll possibly eat smart foods, the mention which was made there. We'll possibly experiment more, and we'll possibly eat a little more healthier. So I see a lot of optimism in which the way the panelists really spoke about what's happened. We can ignore the disruption if at all it's not happened too much in the last 1 year. But I can definitely go back with a lot of optimism with the panelists of saying for the next 3 or 4 years. So I think that's a very, very healthy sign, and I think I enjoyed this discussion in terms of people really bringing a lot of points. So thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, Sada, and thanks a lot to our distinguished panel. A big round of applause, guys. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's put our hands together once again for our wonderful panelists for that very stimulating and riveting discussion.